Crimson Tide. Patterson, I see why you picked this as a leadership film, and I see some references to things you like and leadership as a program that have been throughout the film. One, obviously, the title of the film, Crimson Tide, referring to them being from Alabama and the Roll Tide, and that being a reference throughout, and their, even the song Sweet Home Alabama being in the background, being a reference to your place, Patterson. Um, Two, the Star Trek references throughout, pretty interesting, tie into another film. And then three, a reference to our Vienna trip, because of the Lipizzaner stallions. And there's a very tense scene. One of the characters, Hunter, who's the lieutenant. The captain knows something about him, so he knows that he's into horses, and he's talking about these Lipizzaner stallions and how they train them. What he's really talking about is the formalization of their training. Thought that was interesting that was in this movie, that I was studying for leadership, because we had seen some of the formalization of the Lipizzaner stallion training while in Vienna, because that's the kind of horse that they actually have around the palace. So formalization is the degree to which organizations follow official rules, regulations, and procedures. And when you're dealing with something military like the Navy, that's pretty much the whole thing. It's completely official. It's got to all be done by the book. Part of the problem is there's discrepancies in this about who to be following. Should we be following the captain, or should we be following the rules to 100%? And that was our question throughout. And in the film, the main conflict is that the whole should we be continuing this missile launch, because we almost got some new orders, but the new orders got cut off because the communications were destroyed. Centralization is the degree to which decisions are made at the top. So really, decisions have to be made at the top, but one of the rules was that to launch into nuclear war, you've got to have the top two, the lieutenant and the captain, have to give it the okay. And the captain is saying, well, our last order said to go ahead and launch, and the lieutenant is saying, wait, we can't risk nuclear war because we don't know what those new orders were saying. So that's where the whole conflict of really the climax of the film is built up. It's built around. Specialization is, the different jobs on the ship. And there's tons of different jobs on the ship, from the captain being in command to the lieutenant, being more the one that is with the men and knows the men better. And to the guy that his whole job is to just know the safe codes for the to unlock the nuclear missile launch. Complexity. There's many activities in this organization. There's a high level of complexity because you've got a ship that has to house all of these men, and it has to feed them, and it's got all their beds and their regular routine activities. And of course, standardization. It's military, so everything's done in a very routine fashion. And the opening scene, everything is very routine. The captain is a very by the book kind of guy. He's very he's a charismatic leader, but he's also very kind of a hard guy. And he's funny about how he's going to be hard. He said, before they even board, he says, men, if you can't keep up, well, you're going to feel, a sensation in the back of your pants. That's going to be my boot up your ass. And so he's very we're going to do this, the same way every day. And I think that, his mentioning of the Lipizzaner ponies is in the same way. You got to just use a cattle prod, you can get it to do whatever you want. That's his style of leadership. And I think that differs from Hunter's style of leadership, because he's very thoughtful. Near the beginning of the film, they're all, once they've set off, the captain's still getting to know his new lieutenant, and they're all around the dinner table, and people are asking about well, do you think we should have dropped those nuclear bombs? And everyone else is like, heck yeah, we should do it, America. And the lieutenant, while he does agree that was the right decision in the end, he's thoughtful about how he does it, and the captain kind of teases him on that. It's very much foreshadowing for what's going to happen. I think that while while Hunter knows, the degree to which organizations need to follow the official rules, would be like, yes, like it's the right thing to do to go ahead and drop those bombs because the order came. He's much more reluctant to do that. He's not as trigger happy. And I say that Hunter is a different style of leader also because of how he connects. He makes those interpersonal connections with the crew through things like Star Trek and comic books. And I think that's where people really start to follow him, when what some would consider a mutiny, but it's really a differing in what command should we be following at this point, because command is saying different things, which there's a consistent buildup of the lack of unity in command throughout the film between Hunter and the captain, and you kind of know what's going to happen. At the end, you're like, I think the main conflict is really going to be between these two. The captain, looking at Lewin's styles of leadership, and leaders in an organization, he's a very authoritative. It's an authoritative kind of, like it's him, and because it is military, And it was interesting because I think that a lot of people followed Hunter because he is a charismatic leader. But there is one man that he turns around and he says, thank you. And there's I forget his role, but he was kind of right under their command. And he says, no, don't thank me. I'm not on your side. I don't agree with you. However, going back to that first scene, the formalization, he said, I'm following the official rules, even though I think you're wrong. That was just very interesting. And I think that there's the formal authority, like for the most part, the captain has the most authority. And then there's the, Kohlberg talks about, moral authority, moral maturity, which is why the lieutenant chooses to question the captain in the first place. Because, first of all, he knows that a new order might be coming through, and he doesn't want to put more lives at stake than is necessary, while the captain is kind of battle-hardened and ready to pull the trigger. So, part of the reason for him not obeying his captain's orders is because he knows that the real rule is that, what he said, he has to also give the order to launch a nuclear missile, and he knows that those orders from beyond the ship might have changed, which they had. So that's the whole thing. That's really the whole conflict, is trying to get those orders, and not follow the outdated orders just because we couldn't get a hold of our new orders. That's the whole movie. Super interesting. Definitely there's a lack of unity in command, and there's a sort of conflict within. There's differing ideologies of how to proceed with actually doing things by the book. And in the end, Hunter actually ended up being right and saved a lot of lives and did not start a nuclear holocaust. So that was a good ending. It was good that he thought for himself and defied authority a little bit and went against the formal authority, but rather followed what he knew was moral.